Hi, this is Cora Stack here, Dr. Stack. I want to announce my campaign, my GoFundMe campaign launches, and just explain where it is at the moment and where I am at the moment and why I'm looking for your support. It's the way I've worded the campaign. Perhaps it's abstract, but it I think there's a lot in it. It's save the separation of powers, save democracy. So, hello, how are you? I hope you're well, and thank you for your many kind comments and your encouraging, stay with it, stick with it, keep going, that's fantastic. Well done for the good work, keep going. And that's really what you need in a campaign. You need, the people to kind of, be behind you in that way. So I'm really glad that so many people are saying, keep going, keep on going, keep keep up the good work, all of that. Easier said than done, but I think it's very encouraging to get that kind of affirmation from the YouTube, supporters. So that's been fantastic, and I really appreciate that. That's fantastic, and they're phenomenal people there on the YouTube. And I don't know them personally, but they have been, fantastic all the way. Real supporters and fantastic people. You can see it from their comments. Really, really top class people, and people have different names they use, but from the words you can see they're top class and real people of exceptional integrity. And they are the people I like following me on my YouTube. So I want to begin by sincerely thanking everyone who has already supported this campaign. Your contributions, your incredible, kind and encouraging messages on this channel, and your encouragement in particular in the comments in many of the YouTube videos genuinely mean a great deal. I mean, I couldn't go ahead without them, really. When I look back at them, I'm sort of amazed at what's been written. Shortly after the initial launch, the page unfortunately went down due to a technical fault. GoFundMe has since apologised and restored it just a day or two ago. So today I'm formally relaunching that campaign and explaining clearly what it is about, because many people are only hearing about it perhaps for the first time now, or perhaps don't know where the link is, that sort of a thing. So the campaign is called Save the Separation of Powers, Save Democracy. It arises from live constitutional proceedings currently before the Supreme Court of Ireland and the Court of Appeal of Ireland. I should say this clearly. I am appearing as a litigant in person in one of the most complex and significant constitutional challenges currently before the courts. It's hard to believe, really. It really is. It's kind of, up there in the clouds. Hopefully I'm not there. I have to bring down people from the clouds. That's so much. So we won't go into that. This means, by a thing called accountability, this means I am carrying this work without the lack of a full legal team, clearly. The respondents, by contrast, are represented by senior counsel and extended legal resources funded at state level. I mean, they have so many barristers and solicitors. You could call it an army of barristers and solicitors. And then how many legal teams have they behind the scenes? The best of all, the best in Dublin. The best brains and the best tacticians. You could meet in Ireland. It's me against all of them. And I'm not saying it's against them, because I am representing the ordinary citizen. So I'm the ordinary citizen representing the state, inverted commas, and their legal power. But I'm the ordinary citizen, so I have more people behind me because I'm representing the ordinary citizen. But I don't have the legal power they have. This is how I'm looking at it. So I'm representing the ordinary citizen, you see. They can't afford legal representation because of the way the system is. The squeeze middle that are giving everything and getting nothing in return, or feel that they're being expected to carry a disproportionate burden of everything, which I believe is true in a lot of Western democracies. It's all this risk, the risk of everything is being put on the squeezed middle. So there is therefore a significant imbalance in legal capacity. This is simply the reality. One side has institutional support, structured legal teams, and substantial funding. Our taxes. I'm undertaking the research, drafting, preparation, and court work myself with the aid of Miss Maureen Kenny has been extremely helpful, of course, and others. I have been assisted, but an awful lot of the intellectual work I've had to do on my own, particularly the constitutional work. And Miss Maura Kenny has been brilliant on administrative law and public law and politics. Fantastic. So I do not say this as a complaint. Well, there's no point in complaining as nobody listens. I say it as context. There is no point in pretending that the imbalance is a minor. Perhaps we might say it's a reflection of the way the country is. The ordinary citizen has no power. So I'm standing up for the ordinary citizen in that sense. The disparity in legal power and financial resources is substantial. And it is precisely in situations like this that the principle of equal access to justice matters most. Because constitutional protections should not depend on whether a citizen can match the financial strength of the state, inverted commas. The issues raised in this case concern accountability, transparency, and the proper balance between branches of governments, principles that protect every citizen. This is not about attacking institutions, it's about strengthening constitutional safeguards. Across Ireland, many people feel unheard. Housing remains unaffordable. Every person will tell you the biggest crisis is housing, but there's a lot more to it than just the house itself. It's what the house, the mental health, the stability, the dignity of having a house and not being able to afford a house. Just the dignity, the mental health, the worry, the anxiety. There's a huge amount involved in the housing crisis. The inequity, the inequality. There's you could hit it from so many angles. Looking at the housing shortage, the housing crisis. I mean, there's so much injustice in lack of justice embedded in what has now transpired to be the biggest housing crisis that the state has ever faced in modern times. The cost of living continues to rise. I mean, the cost of ESB and phones and everything, and the basic living cost essentials are rising exponentially, and there doesn't seem to be any stop. Petrol, diesel, everything. It's gone out of control. Public services are stretched, hospitals, education, everything, accommodation. Young people are immigrating because they see limited opportunity. They can't afford a house, and a lot of young people are saying to me, we'll never be able to afford a house. That's what we're looking for. That is not acceptable. That is complete injustice, and that has not happened overnight. That has followed by policies that have favoured the well-off, inverted commas, for many, many years. And they have, I won't say gotten away with it, but there hasn't been sufficient accountability or balance for the human rights of the person who needs housing. The ownership of housing, and those people their rights have been given disproportionate value, because if there weren't, there would be sufficient housing there. And this is not something that happened overnight. This has been going on 30, 40 years now, so something has to change. These pressures are not disconnected from constitutional accountability. When oversight weakens at the highest level, trust weakens across society. Democracy does not fail suddenly. I mean, the housing crisis didn't happen overnight. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying the housing crisis is a function, or it's a sign of how poor or weak our democracy is. But it's having a huge effect on ordinary people and younger people and a lot of people. It erodes when scrutiny narrows, when facts are not fully examined, when access to justice becomes out of reach. I mean, every second person in the courts now is facing a bank. I mean, it's extraordinary, unjust, in my opinion, that this is the way things are. The work is highly complex. It requires long hours of deeply concentrated research, careful constitutional analysis, brainwaves, which are rare enough, but they're there, detailed documentation and sustained preparation. I'm continuously trying to spot patterns, and funnily enough, looking around at some of the podcasts and some of the, people are giving me the information. I can getting the patterns there. I can see there. It's all kind of, so there are people observing patterns that I'm seeing, but in a different way, and then it's kind of supporting my patterns. So it's brilliant the way, a lot of things are going along now, and they're all, I can say, yeah, there, and there, and then you can put it all in a pattern, and so it helps me understand it better. So this is very demanding work. At times it is isolating work. So when I see your encouragement and support in the comments, it genuinely matters. And even in the likes, and I know a lot of people don't like in a situation where there's the constitutional challenge, they just read, but they're nervous of liking, especially because I don't have any problem with that. It reminds me that this effort is about shared democratic values, not one individual case. Constitutional accountability carries financial and personal cost. This is why I'm asking for support. If stronger accountability standards, this is really what I'm hoping from the Supreme Court. And now I can't dictate, but I certainly think they're well capable of designing this or ensuring this is the outcome. So it's not about winning. It's not about, people say, I hope you, no, it's not about winning. It's about achieving this. I think this is where I feel we need to start. Everybody has a different view about this, that, and the other, but this is what I would like out of the Supreme Court decisions. If stronger accountability standards emerge from these proceedings, it's not about winning. That's not what it's about. This is what the aim is in my, trying to summarize it. If stronger accountability standards emerge from these proceedings, the impact will extend beyond any single outcome. So this is really where I think that's where our country has really, if I was to put one word on what has happened here, there's a huge problem with accountability. And, I suppose I could write loads of papers about that, but that's my sense, that where it's accountability, really, that if you have accountability there and proper accountability mechanisms, what emerges from that then is fairness, balance, and everything else that's gone wrong awry. So this is where I think the Supreme Court could really help, all the citizens of Ireland with, establishing or bringing about a stronger accountability framework in Ireland for everybody. So this is where I'm coming from. So if stronger accountability standards emerge from these proceedings, the impact will extend beyond any single out. So it's not about beating the state or winning against them. No, it's about well, it would be great if we could work together for this. Perhaps that's how it's going to end up. But this is what I would like. That the Supreme Court would realise that the country needs stronger accountability standards, and they, I'm sure, will be able to. They'll be able to design those or ensure that they're, they'll know what, they have all the talents in there to figure out what's needed, to improve accountability. So just to go back to that again, if stronger accountability standards emerge from these proceedings, the impact will extend beyond any single outcome. It will reinforce democratic balance. That's what I call give a democratic reset. It will strengthen public trust. It will help ensure that constitutional justice remains accessible to ordinary citizens. To those who've already contributed, thank you most sincerely. To those hearing about this for the first time, I invite you to read more about the campaign. I will put the link in the description below. If you believe that accountability matters, that power should be meaningfully checked. Now, this was something that Camilla Harris, she talked about the check on power in the United States, but I think that's something that's needed everywhere. And that's what the Supreme Court are there for. They are there to specifically check unchecked power and to look at it and see, has power gone unchecked? And I, to put it very simply, that I would say that would be a major role of the High Court to examine: has there been an overreach in terms of power? Has it gone unchecked, in inverted commas? That could be one way of putting a constitutional challenge. So if you believe that accountability matters, that power should be meaningfully checked, and that justice should not depend on wealth or influence or connections, then I invite you to support or share. Every small contribution makes a difference. This is about protecting the separation of powers and strengthening democracy in Ireland and possibly beyond. But we have to, start in Ireland. So I think it's a fantastic case, because I think there is huge potential for improving accountability framework across many in many areas, and that should give or help. To design or to start a democratic reset. So this is what I'm about. I mean, it's a very significant challenge, but I think there are workable solutions here. So this isn't a pie in the sky. There are workable, practical, implementable solutions that I'm sure the Supreme Court can help design, so that there is more accountability in our systems, and that will help to restore the balance that is currently, in my opinion, certainly not there. And you can just watch every podcast that's there, and you can see so many citizens very, very concerned about the health of our democracy, and in particular about all these issues. Now, I could use other words here to describe all of this, but I'm not trying to use weaker words. I'm just trying to use words which hopefully will bring down the sort of comments that are on. I mean, it's shameful really to see what everybody is saying about the country. They're saying it's corrupt. Everybody, that there's corruption. I mean, every second person is talking about corruption, and what I'm saying is that the best way of dealing with this is through a concept called a new framework of accountability, and that accountability has to be continually checked. So it's not, you can't just say we'll have an accountability framework now. No, that has to be continuously reviewed. So whatever accountability framework is designed, or hopefully comes out of the Supreme Court, just saying that'll do now for the moment. No, these have to be continuously reviewed. These mechanisms of accountability have to be continuously reviewed, without any bias or conflict of interest in that review process, I would say. So I'd say all these things will be well within the scope of the Supreme Court to decide, and we want the citizens of Ireland. When you listen to all those people and read all those horrific, not horrific, but what people are saying, every second person. I've never come across a stage in my life where I've met so many people speaking about the corruption, so many people saying they're powerless to do anything about it. No, the Supreme Court can help us. They can help us, bring all of this down by introducing a framework of accountability across a lot of domains, such that, this hopefully in a number of years' time, there won't be as many posts about the state of Ireland and the level of corruption in the country. So I would prefer to look at it as accountability, that we need a lot more accountability and checked accountability, and we need to, all of us need to look at our own lives, and are we accountable? How can you be accountable to everything if you're squeezed to the hilt? Absolutely squeezed to the hilt and pressurised to the hilt with bills, because people that should be paying their taxes are not paying their taxes. And how do you bring those into the dialogue? I mean, how do you get people who are not paying their taxes to pay a little bit more? That's a big question. I personally don't feel you should overtax the rich. I don't feel that's a good idea, but I certainly don't feel that very rich people or people in business should pay no tax, while the public service are paying full taxes, and pensioners and that paying huge taxes, and then they're seeing people earning hundreds of thousands paying less tax than someone on an 80,000 salary. So that's what that's that's all part of it. But it's about for the first thing, it's just about trying to get accountability. So if you can support, I could be talking ad infinitum, but I would very much like to have your support for what I'm talking about there on the GoFundMe, and all donations would be greatly appreciated. It's an extraordinarily challenging case, but I think I've done most of the work now, but I mean, it's going to take time before the Supreme Court, they won't move. This is such a huge case, and I suppose that the solution
is probably the hardest thing, but they're well able to do it. There's very good minds in there, and they're well able to do it, and they know this. They must know there's a huge need for their intervention at this stage. I mean, we're really intervening at a critical time. We're at an all-time low, and all you have to do is look at all those podcasts, and you can see clearly we're at an all-time low in Ireland in terms of our democracy, the health of our democracy, and you could use all those other words to describe same. So I think it's absolutely critical that the Supreme Court intervene, and that's a brilliant case, and I'm sure they'll come up with a brilliant solution.